The moment of conception of every human being who has ever lived on this planet represents a static point coordinate x in time and space, which is unique to that individual. Due to the advances in modern imaging technology, the actual precise moment of conception has been captured on video as an observed electrostatic spark. However, at a more fundamental level, that specific unique point in time and space represents a universal reincarnation entry point on this planet for immortal souls. A reincarnation entry point defines the precise moment when a dimensionless immortal soul becomes manifest on this planet and so gains the ability to experience a physical existence as a conscious living being in this world. It is the contention of this model that the spark of life which occurs at the moment of conception only occurs as a consequence of an accompanying interconnected spark which occurs at the Carty shell, 3,000 kilometres above the surface of the Earth. The specific moment in time instantaneously establishes a connection between the new life which has come into existence and the Carty shell which is associated with that specific time. The interconnectedness of the soul with the assigned Carty shell is maintained throughout the physical life of that soul. It is a fundamental law of the process of reincarnation that no two souls are ever reincarnated at the precise same moment in time in the same alternative universe. But the time difference between any two separate reincarnations is measured in Planck scale time. The Carty shell, which is assigned to a specific time and soul, represents the seat of consciousness of that individual and the store of personal memories acquired by that person over time in the course of their life. The store of our memories within the Carty shell is analogous to a file on a quantum hard drive which exists in the wavelength and frequency of the speed of light. As a file having a specific resonance which exists at the speed of light, the specific wavelength and frequency of the living individual soul can be compared to a musical note, or alternatively as the resonance of a specific colour in the electromagnetic spectrum. At every moment in a person's life, the individual musical note which represents the morality of that person's soul at any given moment in time becomes part of the whole symphony of all the musical notes of all the conscious souls alive on this planet at that moment. The metaphorical combined musical symphony of life represents the current moral state of humanity on the planet at that time and can be described as the collective global consciousness of humanity which is radiating out from the planet at that shell and out into the cosmos at that specific time. The fact that the personal store of our memories exists as a single file on a quantum hard drive explains the reason why we are capable at any given moment of instantly recalling a specific memory from that whole depository of memories, stretching back in time for as long as we can remember. Now, I should state here that an individual soul of itself as a dimensionless and timeless aspect of our existence does not represent the consciousness of the individual. Only a living organism moving through space and time can experience being conscious. Most importantly, however, is that it is apparent in this scenario that the depository of our memories, and therefore a fundamental aspect of our conscious existence as an individual living being, when regarded as a file in the Carty shell quantum hard drive, has a dimensionless existence which is separate and independent from our physical body. The history of the planet at the precise point X in time and space, in the parent universe into which a soul is reborn, is identical for every soul on every occasion. And this detail even applies to the fact it is the same sperm which fertilises the egg on every occasion. Immediately after the moment of conception into a new world, however, the individual soul is on its own. Chaos theory and the laws of chance take over and determines the future path that soul will take through life. Each separate soul, beginning with the same moment in time, will have a unique individual physical existence, which will be entirely unique and personal to them. If X represents the beginning of a timeline which is unique to a soul, X also represents the centre of a relative universe which is also unique to that soul. And from that moment of conception till the moment of death, that soul will remain at that exact relative centre of that specific universe which is individual to them. This model postulates that every possible form of society which it is possible to exist has an actual, real, temporal, physical existence within the infinity of possible physical existences which comprise the many worlds multiverse as a whole. Each society which exists in an alternate universe has a specific Carty shell musical note which reflects the moral tone of the collective consciousness of that society, as mirrored by the resonance of the Carty shell. When your mortal physical body dies, then whatever the moral state and musical note of your own immortal soul at the time of your death, you can be guaranteed that in the infinity of the many worlds multiverse, that there will be an alternative universe out there where the wavelength and frequency, in other words, the musical note of the collective global consciousness of the planet at that time, will have a resonance and a synchronicity which is in perfect harmony with the personal moral state of the musical note of your own immortal soul. So there is a resonance in the octave. And this is where your immortal soul will be reborn in physical form. And this is the world you will exist in and experience in your next physical existence. And this is the only criteria which applies with regard to the destination of your immortal soul when you die. That's the only criteria. Nothing else matters. In the dimensionless domain in which the musical note of your immortal soul exists, the harmonic resonant connection at the time of your death with the musical note of the collective consciousness at the Carty shell of your new world is instantaneous. In other words, you die, you're reborn at the same moment. The store of memories as a file requires the energy provided by the living body while it is living in order to be accessed. At the moment of death, the energy connection is lost and the individual file at the Carty shell, which used to be you, becomes absorbed into the generalised note of the collective global consciousness of humanity, which existed at the Carty shell at the moment of your death. The consequence being that the individual memories can no longer be defined or accessed as a single file. Meantime, the store of your memories, which existed at the Carty shell and which was you, is wiped clean. No energy is lost and no information is lost. The only definite that can be known of the reincarnation of any given individual soul is that it will be reincarnated on this planet. However, that which cannot be known is the place and the time and in which alternative universe and in which version of the planet this will occur. And in an infinity of planets or universes, could be anywhere. The choice is infinite. In this version of physical reality, the planet is called Earth. However, in an infinity of possible alternative versions of physical reality, the number of names which this planet could be called by an intelligent civilization is also infinite. However, the smell of a rose is the same regardless of the name we ascribe to the actual flower. In the infinity of branched off possible physical existences which an individual immortal soul can experience, beginning with the true origin of life on this planet 600 million years ago, there exists an alternative version of physical reality in an alternative universe where the circumstances of the evolution of the apex species on the planet have conspired over eons of time to enable that species to establish the creation of the equivalent of a global-wide paradise society on this planet, or whatever the planet is called by that civilization. In fact, in the mathematics of an infinite many worlds multiverse, the establishment and existence of such paradise worlds is an odds-on statistical certainty. I personally visualise such a society, such a paradise society, as being a world where there will be no need or requirement for any door anywhere on the planet, other than for obvious safety reasons or for reasons of personal privacy, to be fitted with a lock. This model postulates that there is a way that your immortal soul can be reincarnated into such a version of a paradise society on this planet. And that is if the moralistic musical note of your soul at the time of your death resonates in harmony with the specific moral musical note of the collective global consciousness of that society in that world. And it perhaps goes without saying that the global ethic of such an altruistic enlightened civilization will be one of mutual cooperation, inclusion, in a world devoid of conflicts and war, and where every person lives their life according to the principle of the golden rule, that of having respect, love and compassion, and being kind to all living things, and a society where all persons are treated equal. Paradise indeed. If the moralistic wavelength of your soul at the time of your death resonates with the collective global consciousness of the Carty shell of that paradise society in whatever alternate universe, then that is where you will be reborn in your next physical existence. You will have a physical existence in paradise. The most profound implication of being reincarnated in a paradise society on this planet is that when you die in paradise, then because you will have lived your life according to the principles of the golden rule, the chances are that at the time of your death in that paradise existence, that the moral tone of your soul will again be in resonant harmony with the global collective consciousness of another paradise society in another alternate universe, where again the principle of living your life according to the golden rule applies. And so begins a chain reaction of infinite succession of individual, separate physical existences, each one in a world where a global paradise exists. In this arrangement, each separate, finite, mortal physical existence which a living conscious soul experiences is in a paradise society. However, if this is the one same individual soul being reincarnated in paradise on every occasion, and that this process is eternal, then that specific immortal soul can be described as existing and experiencing the equivalent of a personal domain of heaven on earth, and a heaven on earth which is unique to that specific immortal soul. Of course, the other side of this coin is that because all possible alternative different forms of society are allowed, there will also be inevitably universes where the society on the planet has evolved over time to become totally corrupt and depraved, and where all manners of horror are perpetrated by the apex intelligent beings who inhabit the planet. If the resonant musical note of your soul at the time of your death is in harmony with the corrupted musical note of the collective global consciousness of a corrupt and immoral civilisation, then likewise that will be the world you will be reborn into in your next conscious living physical existence. The equivalent definition of a soul existing in the domain of hell, as opposed to existing in the domain of heaven, is an immortal soul involved in a perpetual chain of reincarnation in separate, unique and individual births and deaths in an evil, corrupt and immoral society on the planet on every occasion. Every soul is born pure, with the slate wiped clean on every occasion, regardless of which kind of society that soul is born into. The great consolation which this model provides for any person who has ever gone through the trauma of losing a child is that according to the process and principles of reincarnation, the uncorrupted soul of that child will instantly be reborn again into the same level of society into which the soul of the child was originally reincarnated into. However, for souls which are reborn into the more corrupt and depraved societies, the chances are that the longer they live in that society, the more will be the chance that at the time of their death, the moral vibrations, musical note of their soul will again be corrupted, and their souls at the time of their death will again resonate with the collective global consciousness of another corrupt society and another alternate universe. Such souls have pretty much a zero chance of ever being reincarnated again into heaven, and can be regarded as being cast off from any domain of heaven for all eternity. In reality, statistically, in an infinite many worlds multiverse, every level of society as a reflection of the level of morality of that civilization, ranging between a paradise society at one extreme and a domain of hell at the other. All these forms of society actually exist in some form or another in another alternative universe. You were reincarnated in this world and in this universe for a reason. And that is because at the time of your death in your previous existence, the moral musical note of your living conscious soul resonated in perfect harmony with the moral musical note of the collective global consciousness of humanity, which existed on this planet at the time of your specific reincarnation, at the reincarnation entry point. Your physical existence in this universe is testimony to the fact that obviously your soul presently exists in neither heaven nor hell, but somewhere in between. The collective global consciousness of humanity at the present is teetering on the edge between good and evil. I have already proclaimed elsewhere that every person is their own God by virtue of the fact that each and every individual soul exists at the centre of a physical reality which they themselves have created. The claim that every person, including you, is their own God is further enhanced by the fact that only you can decide whether your own immortal soul at the time of your death in this life will enter heaven or not. And there is no fudging to this issue in what you have to do. It's fucking simple, and there is nothing complicated about it. The stupidest person on the planet could comprehend this. Treat every living thing with respect and compassion. And with regard to your relationship with your fellow human beings in your day-to-day existence, treat everyone you meet the way you would like them to treat you, and mainly with empathy. Empathy is the key. Empathy is at the root of kindness, compassion, understanding and respect. Qualities that we all appreciate being shown, whoever we are, whatever we think and wherever we come from. There's a universal connection with this ethic. The existence of a global paradise society on this planet in any given alternative individual universe firstly requires and is preceded by many millions of years of the evolution of that specific intelligent living being, so that they can attain a level of spiritual enlightenment which equips and enables that civilisation to establish the creation of that paradise. As such, regardless of which alternate universe it occurs, before any intelligent species can ever hope to exist in paradise, that species must necessarily live through violent periods preceding the creation of paradise. When that civilisation has been less enlightened and less civilised, and where individual members of that species have experienced personal existences which they subjectively would describe as representing a hell on earth. I believe that the level of spiritual awareness which is required and which a species must attain before it can ever hope of establishing paradise on this planet was attained by homo sapiens thousands of years ago. We attained that level many thousands of years ago, and we have lived through a tumultuous history of hell on earth to get here. However, because of the inherent divisiveness of human society causing continual conflicts between different factions on earth, the collective global consciousness of the planet does not reflect that this is so. The only way that a paradise society can be created on this planet is if the moralistic musical note of the collective global consciousness of humanity resonates at a dominant frequency of empathy, love, compassion, equality and respect. And the only way that such a thing can ever be achieved is if we teach our children that heaven is a domain and hell as a domain are real places. That they are their own God, and if they want to go to heaven, that they should live their life according to the principle of the golden rule. And this should be taught to every child on the planet. There is a profound rightness and a positive karma which can be derived from the fact that regardless of your status or title within a group, regardless of how rich you are or the material possessions you own, only the good guys go to heaven. It doesn't matter your colour, race or creed. It doesn't matter your religion, your nationality or political views, or whether you believe in God or whether you don't, whether you support Celtic or Rangers, doesn't matter. If you do not treat others according to the golden rule, your soul ain't going to heaven when you die. Simple as that. The buck of responsibility of where your own immortal soul will go after you die stops with you, not with your teacher, your rabbi, your imam, your priest or witch doctor. If your soul is corrupt when you die, you ain't going to heaven. And depending on how morally corrupt you are in this life, there is a chance that you may immediately go to hell when you die. The moment you realise that this is the case represents the beginning of your own personal judgment day. And your immortal soul may only have one chance. Your immortal soul may never come this way again.